Well, Mr. Speaker, yes. What a fascinating answer. It is not the same answer that I received when I asked exactly the same question, word for word, on the 9th of July. Then the Prime Minister replied with just one word, yes, and then he sat down with a smug grin on his face. What's changed in the past 4 months?
Mr. Speaker, as she well knows, no Prime Minister or Chancellor will ever set out their plans in advance. But, Mr. Speaker, I can say this, Mr. Speaker, because the figures on the productivity review that's being undertaken, this is a judgment on their record in office.
Here's a little game politicians love to play. It's called Answer a Completely Different Question and Hope Nobody Noticed. Keir Starmer has been playing it for months. But today, Kemi Badenoch bought the receipts because back in July she asked Starmer whether he still stood by Labour's 3 central tax promises. No income tax rises, no national insurance rises, no VAT rises. He said yes. One word. Sat down, smug face, job done. 4 months later, she asked the exact same question, word for word. And what did she get? Retail sales, inflation, the stock market, their Natch waiting list, 5 interest rate cuts. Everything except an answer. Meanwhile, real people, workers, savers, homeowners are about to open a budget that nobody voted for, full of taxes that were never mentioned in any manifesto. And the Prime Minister stands there recycling growth statistics like a man desperately reshuffling a losing hand of cards.
Those figures are now coming through, and they confirm that the Tories did even more damage to the economy than we previously thought. Now, we will turn that around. We've already delivered the fastest growth in the G7 in the first half of this year. 5 interest rate cuts in a row. Trade deals with the US, EU and India. They broke the economy. We're fixing it.
Mr. Speaker, he says no Prime Minister or Chancellor will say these things before the budget. Has he told his Chancellor? Because she's been out there flying kites, causing constant speculation around the budget that is damaging the economy. All week, they've been briefing about tax rises. What we've heard is that he does not have a plan. So we have some ideas for him. Yes. Yesterday, they can... Yes. Mr. Speaker, it's quite clear that they need some ideas. Yeah. On this side of the House, we believe in scrapping taxes on family homes. Yesterday, we voted to abolish stamp duty. They voted against it. Even the Deputy Prime Minister, or the former Deputy Prime Minister, who resigned in disgrace for not paying stamp duty, voted to keep it. So, Mr. Speaker, I will remind them, on this side of the House, we know that abolishing stamp duty is how we get young people on the housing ladder and get the economy growing. So why won't he scrap this terrible tax?
Why didn't they do it then in 14 years in office? Mr. Speaker, as I said, the productivity review figures are now coming in, and they show the true extent of the damage that they did. And she asked us to take advice from them. We all know, these figures are coming out, we all know that austerity damaged the economy on their watch. The botched Brexit deal damaged the economy on their watch. Liz Truss's mini-budget damaged the economy on their watch. So we'll take no lectures or advice from them on the economy. They won't be trusted on the economy for generations to come. And, Mr. Speaker, that's why at our budget, I can be clear, there will be no return to austerity. That's what broke the country. No return to the instability of their mad borrowing spree. And we'll end the unfairness and low growth that squeeze living standards for working people. That's the path to national renewal.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives reduced the deficit every year until the pandemic. We more than doubled the personal allowance. We left 4 million more jobs than we found from Labour. We brought inflation down to 2%. It's nearly double.
Mr. Tufnell, you're in my sights. The pantomime season has arrived, so don't start it too early.
Mr. Speaker, On our record, we brought inflation down to 2%. It has doubled under him. We left him the fastest growing economy in the G7. It is no longer. The truth is, they have no ideas. We're giving them some. There is another way to get growth. It's cutting welfare spending and getting people into work. Last month, I offered to work cross-party with him to bring down welfare spending because he knows, and we know, that he'd rather dip into people's pockets than upset those people behind him. Instead of tax rises, will he work with us to find a way to cut welfare spending and get Britain working again?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about their record. Let's go through it. They crashed the economy. Inflation went up to 11%. Mortgages went through the roof. Welfare spending went up £33 billion on them, and they want to give us advice. And they reduced the UK to a laughing stock. Because of our budget, Mr. Speaker, waiting lists have come down, wages are up, mortgage rates are down, and other countries want to do deals with us. Just on Monday of this week, the Turkish government signed an £8 billion deal for typhoons. Earlier this year, the Norway government a £10 billion for frigates. That is because of the budget that we passed, fixing the mess that they left.
Mr. Speaker, it's not because of the budget that he passed. I started that deal back in January 2024. But and I welcome it. There are some things, Mr. Speaker, it's got nothing to do with their budget. We're lucky it's still happening. So I welcome the £8 billion deal that he's done with Turkey, but I will remind him that just last month, his Chancellor borrowed £20 billion. He'll have to sell a hell of a lot more jets to make up for that. And he won't rule out any tax rises. He can't cut spending. He is increasing unemployment. This man knows nothing about economic growth except how to destroy it. In his weakness, Mr. Speaker, he has caved into the unions with their regulations that will cripple businesses, costing them £5 billion every year. Yes, please do speak up, because I want every single business out there to hear Labour MPs heckling when we talk about the damage that they are doing. So I ask the Prime Minister, how on earth can he consider adding more burdens for these firms to deal with?
Mr. Speaker, she's overlooked the fact that we had the highest growth in the G7 the first 6 months of this year, and that growth's just been upgraded. 3 interest rate cuts. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to take lessons from them. She's now introduced what I understand to be, I think she calls it a golden economic rule, this golden rule that she's now putting forward, very golden. £47 billion, Mr. Speaker, of unspecified spending cuts, with no detail whatsoever. Mr. Speaker, let me put that in context. That would be 85,000 fewer nurses, 234,000 fewer teachers, or cutting every police officer in the country twice over. No wonder the Institute for Government said she's on shaky foundations. That's exactly what caused the problem in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that he has to stand there and make stuff up just shows what kind of Prime Minister he is. We had an itemised list. We had an itemised list of 47 billion. 23 billion was on welfare spending, which I asked him to work with us to cut. He refuses to do so. All he knows how to do is tax, tax, tax. If you work, they tax you more. If you save, they tax you more. If you buy a home, they tax you more. None of these taxes were in the manifesto, which he had 4 years to prepare. Mr. Speaker, he is raising taxes because he is too weak to control spending. He's blaming us, he's blaming the OBR. Last week they were blaming Brexit. Isn't the truth that with this Prime Minister, it's always someone else's fault?
Let me take you back to the 9th of July. Kemi Badenoch stands up in the House of Commons and asks Keir Starmer a simple question. Does he still stand by Labour's manifesto promises? No income tax rises, no national insurance rises, no VAT rises. Starmer looks up, straightens his tie, metaphorically speaking, and says, yes, 1 syllable, sits down, smug grin. The confidence of a man who has never once considered that someone might ask him the same question again. Fast forward 4 months. Same dispatch box. Same question, word for word. And this time, retail sales are higher than expected. Inflation is lower than expected. Growth has been upgraded. The UK stock market is at an all-time high. Not a single syllable about the manifesto. Something changed between July and November, and the fact that Starmer can't bring himself to say what while an entire budget full of tax rises is being briefed to every journalist in Westminster tells you everything you need to know. He was asked about 3 specific promises he made to the British public before they voted for him. And he responded by listing economic indicators as though he were presenting a quarterly report to shareholders who had asked absolutely nothing. Retail sales, inflation, stock market, growth upgraded. These are not answers. These are a human fog machine pointed directly at the question. And Badenoch, to her credit, didn't let it slide. She came back immediately. This is exactly the same question you answered with yes 4 months ago. What changed? Starmer's response was to blame the previous government's productivity figures for making things worse than expected. So the answer is that the answer has changed because it turns out the Conservatives were even more terrible than previously calculated. Therefore, the manifesto promises are still intact? Not intact? Unclear? He genuinely didn't say. Badenoch then pivoted to stamp duty and delivered what can only be described as a parliamentary mugging. The Conservatives had voted the previous day to abolish stamp duty. Labour voted against it. Fine, that's a policy disagreement. Normal politics. But here's the detail that made the Labour benches visibly uncomfortable. The former Deputy Prime Minister, who resigned in disgrace partly for not paying stamp duty, voted to keep it. The man who dodged the tax voted to make sure you keep paying it. Starmer's response to this was to ask why the Conservatives didn't abolish stamp duty in 14 years, which is, in my view, a genuinely fair point. But it is also not a reason to vote against abolishing it now. They didn't fix the roof when it was sunny does not explain why you're refusing to fix it while it's raining on everyone's heads. This is where it gets almost comedic. Starmer, hunting for a win, proudly announced that the Turkish government had signed an £8 billion deal for Typhoon jets. A defence deal, a genuine achievement. He presented it as evidence the budget is working and Britain is open for business. Badenoch let him finish. And then said she started that deal in January 2024. Before Labour took office, before the budget, before any of it. And then, the genuine killer, she welcomed it anyway and reminded him that last month his Chancellor borrowed £20 billion. At that rate, she noted, he'll need to sell considerably more jets. Starmer had grabbed a trophy from the shelf that wasn't his, claimed it in front of the whole country and got politely informed of the original owner while the cameras were still rolling. Badenoch had previously offered, cross-party, to work with the government on cutting welfare spending as an alternative to tax rises. In this session, she raised it again directly. Starmer's response was to pivot to the Conservatives' golden economic rule, a proposed £47 billion of spending cuts, and claim it would mean 85,000 fewer nurses, 234,000 fewer teachers, or cutting every police officer in the country twice over. Now, Badenoch immediately pushed back, saying 23 billion of that 47 billion was specifically identified welfare spending she had asked him to work on together. He had no answer to that, but notice what happened. She made a specific offer. He refused it and then attacked the total package it came from as if the offer had never been made. That is not a debate tactic. That is a man who would rather raise taxes than be seen cooperating with the opposition, even if cooperation would cost the public less money. Badenoch's final summary was clean, cold and surgical. If you work, they tax you more. If you save, they tax you more. If you buy a home, they tax you more. None of it was in the manifesto. All of it is happening anyway. And the man responsible has spent this entire session talking about retail sales, Turkish jets, and blaming people who left office over a year ago. She ended with a line that will follow Starmer for the rest of this parliament with this Prime Minister, it's always someone else's fault. And here's the thing, she's not wrong. Today alone, he blamed the OBA, the Conservatives' austerity, the Brexit deal, Liz Truss's mini-budget and the productivity review figures. Every single answer contained at least one external party responsible for the current state of affairs. At some point, in my view, a Prime Minister has to own the country he is actually running, not the one he inherited, the one that exists right now with the taxes going up right now on the working people who voted for him right now. The manifesto was 4 years in the making. The budget arrives in days. And the answer to do you still stand by your promises has gone from yes to 4 paragraphs of economic statistics that don't include the word yes anywhere. Draw your own conclusions. If this kind of breakdown is what you're looking for, subscribe, like, drop a comment. We're here every week. This is political commentary and satire for informational and entertainment purposes only. All content is sourced from official UK Parliament footage. This channel does not promote hatred, misinformation or any political party. Opinions expressed are commentary only.